Do you ever feel like no matter how hard you try, your efforts just aren't good enough? Do you beat yourself up over what you did in the past or what you're not doing in the present? Are you looking for a way to feel better about not only being a vegan, but all the choices you make in life? Then stick around for today's episode of Vegan Visibility. My guest today is Marquita Solis, who is an empowerment vegan coach, and she is going to share with you ways that you can feel great about who you are at whatever point in your life you're at.
Welcome to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show, where your host, Kathleen Gage, shines the spotlight on vegan and plant-based businesses and entrepreneurs from all walks of life committed to cruelty-free eating, healthy lifestyles, animal compassion, and the environment. Enjoy the show.
So, Marquita, I'm really curious. When did you first become vegan?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because I I did it. So I was vegetarian in 1995, and I think it was after I watched A Peaceable Kingdom, which do you remember that little?
No.
It was beautiful, and it wasn't too graphic. It was about farm sanctuary, and so I don't even know when that was, but there was a period whenever I went vegan. Then I went back to vegetarian for a little while because wasn't surrounding myself with enough vegans. So then I went back to vegan. So this is between 95 and now. So probably vegan for the last 8 years, something like that. And just a little gap in between. So.
Well, you just sparked a question for me because on Twitter, there's always the people within a community who are the rebel rousers. And there's one person who is an angry vegan. I mean, this person is just like off the charts angry and says anybody who's a vegetarian is 100% wrong. And they just shouldn't even exist is basically what he's saying. And I'm like, wait a minute, vegetarianism is the gateway for a lot of people who became vegan. What would you say to somebody who just is so black and white for the people who really want to explore being vegan, but maybe they're not ready to go 100% vegan? So how would you handle a situation like that?
If I had someone here that was thinking about it and not ready to go full vegan, I would say, take your time. I would understand. I understand that the food that we're brought up in a culture where this food is normalized. Eating meat is normal, and we do this with family. There's a lot of meaning behind it, and it's scary sometimes to think that you won't be doing that anymore.
Right.
And I would ask them, is there something that, what would be holding you back, or how could I support you? And I make sure to say in a loving way, right? Because I was held back by not having enough support. So I really want to be there for you. And then it's fine to take your time. There's no rush. Explore any questions I can do to answer, any answers I can give you. I'm here for you. Because this is a life change, and it doesn't have to be frightening. It's fun to explore new foods.
So you've not only become vegan on a personal level, but professionally, your business is within the vegan niche and vegan market. Tell us about your business.
Well, I'm a vegan empowerment coach.
Mm-hmm.
I help the angry, sad vegans that are struggling with family relations and losing peace, staying up at night, crying themselves to sleep, not knowing how to go on with the next family visit. So these are the people that I help move out of this anger and this angst and frustration, and to move into peacefulness and to acceptance that they're doing enough just as they are, right? You're enough just as you are. You don't have to do any more. Being a vegan is doing a lot, and also knowing when to step back. I help them to understand when to take breaks for themselves, because at the core, the more we feel confident and loving of ourselves, the better advocates we can be, the more we can understand people when we understand ourselves. So that's really what I work with people on, getting to that soul space of love, an infinite love of soul, so that infinite love can be shared and it's not threatening to people.
Right, right. Well, what are some ways that people can, let's say, because in my family, I'm the only 100% vegan. I have to say that people are willing to try recipes that I cook. I do most of the cooking for that very reason. And I do most of the grocery shopping. And initially, I didn't set the boundary of like, I don't buy your meat. I was buying meat early on. And then it got to the point, I can't buy your meat. Then it got to the point, I can't buy your ice cream. And then it got to the point, I can't buy your whatever it was. It's like just setting boundaries. And interestingly enough, one person who's been very, very supportive when I said, no, I'm not buying any more dairy. And I was told, aren't you taking this vegan thing a little too far? And I said, absolutely not. So how would you advise or coach somebody like myself? And there's a lot of somebodies like me out there who are vegan, and we have family members who they want to support us, but then they feel like, okay, now you've crossed a line. Now you're going too far. How do we deal with that in our interpersonal relationships?
Well, I would speak from my heart. If somebody said that to me, you're going too far, I would say, well, I'm doing what I have to do for myself. Now, this is something that I've decided, and it's what helps me sleep at night. And I encourage everyone to live like that. And it's nothing personal. This has to do solely with me and how I feel about if I'm living in alignment with my mission. And this is my mission. And it's okay if you don't understand. I mean, you're right. You have a right to your own opinion, and I honor that. So if you want to talk more about it, then that would be fine.
Right, right. Well, I kind of relate being vegan to the same thing as being in recovery, because I have not had a drink in nearly 39 years, because drinking made me fall down a lot and forget what I was doing and have very unsociably acceptable behavior. And when I quit drinking, I had to set boundaries with people I knew. And I can see a direct correlation between the language I had and the conversations I would have with people around that, with also being vegan. So in what you do in your business, what are some of the different services that you offer to people? And if somebody is vegan curious, what would you recommend that they start with as far as your services?
Well, I think as far as my services, I do one-on-one coaching, and this is a high ticket offer for somebody that really is not centered, or they're not aligned with their mission, or curious, or they're exploring. We would work together to explore what is your purpose here, right? And are you living in alignment with that purpose and we're in the discovery process. And so as we go down the path, I'm there to support them. We're going to fall down, and that's fine. We know that you're perfectly imperfect. So being there as a support during this difficult, or not necessarily difficult, but it could be challenging, it could be difficult time of their life. I'm here to support you. So we're getting back up no matter what. You're not going to feel alone. And so that's the one-on-one. And I'm starting group coaching actually at the end of the month, which is going to be amazing, because the power of a group is so effective, and it's so there's something about being in a group, that safe space, that can be very transformational, something that's different than one-on-one coaching. And we have friendships that last a lifetime, and support that lasts a lifetime, and we can really cultivate that, so no one feels alone anymore. And that's why I'm starting the group coaching. And then there's also intensive sessions if someone wants to get together, and we can do it all in one day. Some people don't have the time. They want to do a 4 to 5 hour session with me. I have that also. So we'll really get to the heart of what's holding you back. What are the limiting beliefs? What needs to change? What are the behaviors? What's this behavior causing in your life? And what's the new behavior? Right? And how can we align with your mission? What is veganism to you? What does that mean to you? And are you in alignment with that?
I love what you're doing, because recently they announced that I don't know if it was Senate or Congress. I try not to pay too much attention to our politics, because it's all crazy. I don't care what side of the fence we're on. It's crazy. But I was so disappointed when I heard there was no cap on insulin. And for a lot of seniors, I know that now, I'm going to, when I see seniors my age who are really unhealthy and they don't know that veganism can give them a healthier way of life, and they're very disempowered and they need help to get to the other side of what their disempowerment is about. And yet our government is not helping them with their medication. And it's probably the number one drug that people need to stay alive. And yet the solution is a change in the way they eat, a change in the way they think, a change in the way they exercise. All of that leads into it. But in the short term, they need that insulin. And what would you say? Because we have a very disempowered society, as far as I can see. And I look at that and it's like, it's not black and white. There's many shades of gray in this. But what can you say to people who are feeling really disempowered because they can't afford their medication? They can't afford basically to live, and how they can transition to a place of first feeling more empowered and then getting on a path that gives them the kind of life where they do have better choices, they make better choices, and they live a better quality life?
Well, first of all, I would just immediately tell them how important they are to this planet and how beautiful they are and how there are many, many resources. And I would help them explore these resources and ask them if they knew about the benefits of plant-based eating. I mean, I would tell stories about my friends that have come back from many health crises like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and then the hole in the heart was repaired through whole food plant-based eating. I mean, and neurological, cognitive abilities went up 40% in someone that I know. And that was amazing with this whole food, because we're feeding our brain. What the food we put in is going to our brains. What are we putting in? Junk? Or are we putting in something from the earth, something that's healthy, full of nutrients, alive, living food? So I would start to tell them, ask them, are they wanting to hear this? Because I want to bring them hope. And how can I help you get what you need to do to thrive? Everyone deserves to thrive. And more than anything, I want everyone to do that. So I'm here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to remind people you're listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. I'm Kathleen Gage. I'm your host. I'm talking with Mariquita Solis, who is the vegan empowerment coach, and she works with people who want to feel more empowered in their life. And in your business, what do you find are some of the best ways for people to discover the services that you offer? What are some of your marketing strategies? How do you get seen in the marketplace?
Well, I have a Facebook group, and that's really exciting because in that group, I started out doing interviews only in that group, featuring guests like yourself to be examples of vegans that are living in power and peace. And they're not crying, they're not sad. They've taken action, right? They're taking action for the planet, for themselves, for the animals. And so that's really important to me, is to surround myself, just as I want my clients to surround themselves with people that are making a difference in this world. So I have that. I have my YouTube channel. It's really, I think that the resources are out there, and that's people connecting with people. I've never received such wonderful gifts from the universe until I got into this vegan area of my job. So,
right.
I mean, the reception is amazing. We're very united. So when people are saying I feel very alone, I think that they've stepped away from the resources of the universe. They've stepped away from friends. There are people out there every day I see. I'm so alone. I'm so alone. Well, we're here. I mean, if you've got to take control of your life, you've got to be the one to look up the resources. You've got to be the one to reach out. That's what I tell my clients. It's not up to them. You've got to take control of your life. And you've stepped away from your power center. If we're feeling sad and hopeless and like everything is going to hell, we are not in power center. So we've got to get back to that. And that's what we work on.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's look at, because I love what you said about perfectly imperfect. And a lot of times I think we believe that we need to be perfect at what we're doing. And as a vegan myself, it took me 6 months of being a plant-based eater to identify as a vegan. And now I can never go back. But I'm not perfect at being a vegan, as far as like occasionally I'll eat processed food, processed vegan food. Now, I am perfect in the fact that I don't consume any animal or dairy. That one I've got down. I mean, that's a pretty simple one for me. It's like you just don't eat it. But as far as some of the foods that can disempower me, I love that, perfectly imperfect. So I'm gonna get a shirt that says I am perfectly imperfect as a vegan. But what would be 3 things that you could recommend to somebody that really want to embrace this lifestyle, but one, they don't know other vegans. So where do they meet other vegans? 2, they don't know what recipes, because all they know is the processed vegan foods and very expensive. And they're saying, I can't afford to be vegan. When if you eat whole food, plant-based, you can afford it because it's less expensive than eating meat. I'm on my little soapbox right now. But so we've got, they don't know where to find vegans. They don't know how to eat cost effectively. And maybe they've never really cooked. I know till I became vegan, I just didn't like cooking. Now I love cooking because it's an expression of love. So what are 3 recommendations you can give people?
Well, I think, first of all, be gentle with yourself. Again, with the perfectly imperfect, know that you might fall down, and that's okay. You might eat processed food, and that's okay. Just do the best you can, and your best changes every day. So one thing that I love to do is to look up recipes on YouTube. It's really fun. I've discovered some amazing things like a granola with bananas and dates. I mean, that's what's going to hold the oats together. And I thought, wow, that's ingenious, right? So I think YouTube has become one of my best friends when it comes to exploring whole food, plant-based recipes with no oil. And I think getting out there and looking at meetup groups, there are vegan meetup groups, looking at the activists, looking for activists in your area, making sure that you're reaching out to people and just Googling vegan, like I live in Atlanta, vegan Atlanta, and see who comes up. Because that's how I got in connection with all these beautiful vegans when I switched to vegan business. I just started Googling.
So, okay. So walk me through the process. I'm brand new to this lifestyle. I don't know where to look. What do I do online? Like you mentioned meetup groups, and I know you're in the same area as my good friend V. Lynn Hawkins. And yeah, she's amazing. And it's like there's some really amazing vegans. And so let's say that I'm brand new to all this and I really don't know. And I keep telling myself, because we know that you and I both know, and people who have studied the mind and studied law of attraction and all that, we know that if we keep repeating something, it becomes a reality. And so if we say, I can't do it, I don't know where to find people, that's all we're going to see. So now we have to change the thinking process, the words and all that. So, okay, I am finding vegans in my area. How do I do it?
I would say go to a vegan restaurant and start talking to people and say, I'm a new vegan.
How do I find a vegan restaurant?
Well, you can Google that.
Google. Okay.
Google vegan restaurant. And there's so many now, especially in Atlanta. I mean, even if there are some, there'll probably be at least, hopefully one in every city. Or even if that's not true, I have a Facebook group of vegans. You can come over here to me. And then I'm sure you have communities too. So vegan communities, we can Google. If we're not having any luck there, Googling vegan communities and reaching out, because people want to help. And if somebody's being ugly to you, then step away from them. There can be some vegans that make it harder for other people. So, and know that might be, that's normal, and it's okay for you to step away, go to a loving vegan that
you were reading my mind, because I was thinking, okay, there are some ugly vegans. I mean, there are some vegans, they're just angry people. And whatever, it's just like they say in 12-step programs and in Alcoholics Anonymous, you take the alcohol out of a jerk and you're still going to have a jerk, because until they do the inner work, and until, and there's inner work that we do as vegans. One is, I know that I had to forgive myself when I really understood how much harm and damage I did to animals by consuming them, I had to go through a period of forgiveness. First, I felt guilty, and I could have stayed with that and beat myself up, but I chose to really look at that and say, okay, I did the best I could with what I knew at that time, because most of us were raised as carnivores. I mean, there's no two ways about it. The food manufacturers, I recently have been really delving into the whole thing of added sugar into processed foods. It's shocking what the food manufacturers have done. So with the ugly vegans, like you said, stay away from them. Find the loving vegans, find the vegans that you have something in common with. So what are some other ways besides looking on Google for a restaurant or a meetup? What would be some other ways that people could find vegans or surround themselves with vegans? You mentioned social media groups.
Yeah, social media. I mean, you could start a vegan meetup group. You could be the one to do it.
Perfect.
You
Well,
know?
Linda Middlesworth, she's got the Vegan Society in Sacramento, and here she's 78 years old. She blows my mind, the energy this woman has. And she's got a meetup group in Sacramento, and in her Vegan Society, there are 5,000 members. And who would have guessed? And I'm going to go down and visit there just so I can hang out with all these awesome, awesome vegans, and sometimes we have to travel. Sometimes we have to go the distance. So, what would you say to people who say that there's no place for vegans in the world? What do you say to people like that?
Well, I'm very curious to know. I would say to them, so can you tell me more? I'd love to understand more what exactly you mean by that. Because I'm here and I'm very happy in this beautiful planet. I'm very happy in the world. So I would like to understand how I don't fit in, because
I love that.
I really would.
Well, it sounds like you really work with people on their language patterns and really, getting to understand that what we say does become a reality. So, in closing, what are your final thoughts for people?
Well, that the power lies in their soul. When they're confident in their soul, when they're really loving themselves, they've forgiven themselves, like you talked about, self-forgiveness, self-compassion, and confidence. It's all tied in, and your soul is perfect and complete. So when you live by your soul, then there's nothing that you're doing wrong. You're really living your mission on earth, and to honor your soul every night and give thanks to that beautiful soul. And I give thanks for you, and I give thanks for Kathleen, and all of us are making a difference. And I'm just honored to be in this presence.
I love that. And how would people find you if they want to find out more about your services and get in touch with you? How would they find you?
Well, I have Empowered Vegans is my Facebook group, Empowered Vegans, and Voices of Strength for Mother Earth is the whole name. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I have Instagram, but mainly Facebook is where I am.
Okay.
And LinkedIn. So yeah, look me up. I'd love to have a conversation and celebrate.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And we'll make sure to put that in the show notes. And if you could recommend one book, now I know I said last thoughts a few minutes ago, but I always come up with more questions. If you could recommend one book to people who are really vegan curious and they're really committed to making a change in their life, what would that one book be?
I think it would be the Melanie Joy book about why do we eat. Now I can't think of the whole title. Why do you remember? You know what I'm talking about?
Melanie Joy.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Let me see if I can find it.
Why we eat, why we love dogs and eat cows, something like that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. We will put that in the show notes so that people can go get that book. And I usually recommend Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, but that's more on the eating side of things. But as far as a psychology, have you ever read The World Peace Diet by Dr. Will Tuttle?
Yes, I have, and I'm actually going to talk with him. I talked with him last week. That was beautiful. And on that other side, what really changed me was the John Robbins book.
Yes, the Diet for a New America. Is that the
Yes.
one? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. So, well, Marquita, I so appreciate all that you're doing. I so appreciate who you are. And I just want to wish you the very best. And I encourage people, reach out to Marquita and check out the Facebook groups, the LinkedIn group. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. And for all of you who are watching and listening to this, I encourage you, really think about the behaviors you have, the actions you take, and living an aligned life, because the more aligned you are with the love you say you have for animals, the better off the world is going to be. This is Kathleen Gage with Vegan Visibility, wishing you a very blessed day.
You've been listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when the next episode is live. And we always appreciate reviews. Join us next time for more inspiration, education, and motivation to build your business one cruelty-free and healthy person at a time.